Alright, what's up guys? Another guitar lesson here for you. We're going to keep hammering away at these scales, these pentatonic shapes, and the modes and how they relate to each other. I just think it's really valuable information, and once you start really working with it, it all kind of makes sense. So when we're talking about the modes, there's 3 minor modes and 3 major modes, and then there's one oddball Locrian, which does not apply in this scenario. And the scenario I'm mapping out here for you is that all 3 minor modes fit directly on top of the minor pentatonic scale. I've gone over that in prior lessons, you can check them out. And then all 3 major modes lay on top of the major pentatonic scale. So we're going to take a look at some of the major ones in this lesson. So actually, let's just take a look at the first one, Ionian, which is the major scale. So what is the difference between the major scale and the major pentatonic scale? So here's the major pentatonic scale. Here's the major scale. Okay, so we got 2 notes that are different, and they're just add-on notes. So the pentatonic is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th note of the major scale. So if we wanted to play pentatonic, we would omit the 4 and the 7. Okay? And so if I play that in 2 octaves, you've got this pentatonic shape. Okay, now let's go ahead and play it with the 4 and the 7, so you get the major scale. Okay, so it's good to practice that up and down, and one really cool way to play is just play the pentatonic, and then every once in a while add the 4 for some tension. So the 4 and the 7 are omitted from the pentatonic scale for a reason. They're pretty tense depending on what chord you're playing over top of course, but in general there's just a lot of tension there. And that 4 wants to go to the 3. So where are these notes located? The 4 just a half step above the 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you know your scale pattern. There's the other one. And then the 7 is just a half step below the 1. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 1. And again, you can use that 7 as a leading tone to create a little bit of tension and release. So if I'm just so there I played mostly pentatonic, and at the end I started adding the 4 and the 7 there, and you can kind of get an idea. You know, when you start playing with the major scale, it's not as forgiving as the pentatonic. Pentatonic, you can pretty much play about whatever you want depending on the chord progression you're playing over top of. The major scale is a little trickier, and it's just because of the 4 and the 7. So just understanding that pentatonic, major pentatonic are the same scale. Well, the pentatonic has got the same notes in it as the major scale, just the major scale is adding those 2 notes. And then the same thing happens. Let's check the other 2 major scales real quick. We'll just knock them all out. The major modes. We've got the Mixolydian, which is a very, very common scale. It's a mode of the major scale. So same thing applies here. We've got the pentatonic, it fits right over the pentatonic. There's the pentatonic. Here's the Mixolydian. So the only difference here is we flat the 7. So we're going to add the 4 just like the major scale, and then we're going to add the flat 7 instead of the 7. So that gives it the Mixolydian sound. So we got pentatonic, and then if we want to add Mixolydian, and again you can play like you could, let's say we'll play a pentatonic with a flat 7, just add the 1 note. That sounds pretty cool, and I'm just not playing the 4 there, and that's more of an exercise, but you can play these scales. You don't have to play every note in the scale. So, okay, so that's the Mixolydian. You're just plastering the 4 and the flat 7 on top of the major pentatonic scale. So this is, again, I've been talking about this approach. It's comprehensive, so you got to know your pentatonic scales for this to really be beneficial. And then your scale degrees, you're going to be really focusing on the scale degrees, because if you don't know your scale degrees, how are you going to be able to add a flat 7 to the pentatonic scale? You're going to need to know that. So if I add the 4 and the flat 7, you've just got your pentatonic, or you've got your Mixolydian scale. Now, that's the major, the Ionian, and then the Mixolydian. Same thing, except for the 7s are different. Now let's go to the Lydian, is the other major scale. Same thing's happening. You can still play the pentatonic. The full pentatonic scale fits with the Lydian. The only difference is we change the 4 instead of the 7. The 7 is the same, and we sharp the 4. So here's the pentatonic. Here's the Lydian. 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So there's only 1 note different than the major scale, just like in the Mixolydian. It's just the 4 instead of the 7. So it doesn't take much, really, if you just take the time to look at some of these modes, and if you really focus on grounding yourself in the pentatonic scale and the scale degrees, these modes really start to just kind of pop, and they all just kind of start to make sense. It's like they're just different flavors of scales, really. So if we tried playing, let's try playing a good exercise. We play the major pentatonic, 2 octaves. Now play it and add the sharp 4, just the sharp 4. Now you know where the sharp 4 is, and that's the Lydian sound. Now go ahead and add, let's just do the 7. Oops. And then if we do both, of course, we've got the full Lydian scale. Okay. Now, knowing when to use them, that's a whole nother lesson. I don't want to get this lesson get you bogged down too much. Just bite-sized information here. Just try to take that and utilize that information here. Again, we're just overlaying these major modes on top of the major pentatonic scale, and all we're doing is adding 2 notes. It's the 4 and the 7 for the major scale Ionian, the 4 and the flat 7 for the Mixolydian, and the sharp 4 and the 7 for the Lydian. So I hope this helps, and I hope you guys have some fun jamming. Peace out.